And I find this really interesting because I spoke to somebody a little bit earlier on my show and I asked him that question. Volodymyr Zelensky feels that he's had this huge amount of pressure from the US on Ukraine to capitulate, to give up more. Moscow hasn't had a similar pressure, similar heat from the US. But what this analyst was explaining to me is Russia is feeling the heat. They're feeling the heat from sanctions. They're feeling the heat from Europe. They've been iced out of these talks for 4 years until the US brought them back to the negotiating table. So it's difficult to say who's really facing the wrath here.
Definitely on one thing, I agree on the fact that in major crisis, somebody needs to keep the connection going in order to open doors for potential negotiations. And in Europe, nobody was doing that for their own valid reasons in a sense. But Trump did that and was able to do that while Biden had completely closed doors in that sense. This is valid, yes. But is Russia under enough pressure? I still don't think that Russia is feeling enough international pressure. I don't believe the European sanctions and the European pressure is enough to actually bring Putin to the table. I think only a serious US pressure and US sanctions can bring Putin to the table. Even internal dynamics and internal suffering that we hear about or we see in news here and there about the number of soldiers having to bring prisoners out into the military battlefield, having to bring North Koreans, having to bring people from overseas to work in the industry that has been all shifted towards the war industry. All of this, I think Russia can sustain all of this even for a year to come or more. A very serious US pressure is the only way to bring Putin to the table, and this is what's not happening. That's why we see Zelensky continuously asked for more giving in things more and more, while Putin is not. And the negotiations today seemed, as we saw in the news, that it is about land control and what's going to happen with that. While I think the actual key point is what Michael mentioned, is the security guarantees. This is the key term that will make or break that deal. What are these security guarantees? Who can give them? Who is willing to actually go into military action if these guarantees are broken? This is where all the discussion is happening, with Putin clearly saying no foreign troops in Ukraine and no joining of NATO, and that has been almost accepted by the US.